Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 7th of November 2022. It's Gary here again, and I'd like to start by saying a big hello from a very snowy Calgary here. Man, oh man, has it ever snowed here this past wee while, and we're under, I don't know, about a foot or something like that right now. It's pretty wild, I have to say. Anyway, this is not a weather report, is it? No, it's not. So let's get on with the football. And, well, what else is there to say other than, I don't know, it's got a kind of feeling of, well, that'll be that then, doesn't it? What a sorry state our team are in right now. And we just seem to be lumbering from bad to worse to worse. Honestly, it feels like it was just a few weeks ago when I was applauding and lauding Giovanni for his in-game tactical management and for the influence he was very obviously having on the team. And since then, the injuries have just piled up, and the form of key players has dipped, and the results are just getting worse and worse and worse. And I say that after, of course, our best performance of the season, the weekend before last, there as well. I heard on a post-game Sky Sports interview yesterday morning that Rangers have had 89 shots on goal. 89 shots on goal in our last three games, and we've scored 6. That's a 7% conversion rate, and I know that because I did the mathematics around it. So basically, for every 15 or so shots on goal, maybe not all on target, we'll get one goal. For every 15, let that sink in, we will get one, statistically speaking. So try advertising that to potential new players when we're trying to convince them to come on board. And man, oh man, I don't know. That's not a very good advert, is it? I don't know how that stacks up with other folks, but I'm sure it feels rotten to me. It feels like it's nowhere near good enough, and it feels like we are in real trouble right now. And I also heard on the Heart and Hand podcast, the daily update this morning, that in almost the year that Giovanni has been with us, as of recording today, he's 11 days short of a year with us, and we are now a total, or his team, are now a total of 19 points worse off than our domestic rivals from the East End. So a 12-point shift last year, and at least 7 this year, 7 at the time of recording, and who knows what it's going to be. And I have to admit, when I first heard that, I didn't think it was as much as 12 points last season, but obviously it was. David and his team usually don't get that sort of stuff wrong, and that type of gap just doesn't tell any lies, I'm afraid. And to see our domestic form just completely tank like it seems to do fairly often of late anyway is just absolutely soul destroying. I said to some pals yesterday that watching domestic Rangers games this season is like if you're a boxing fan watching Mike Tyson at the end of his career when he was travelling around the world just basically getting spanked by whatever local journeyman boxer was around at the time, just trying to get a few paydays before he hung up his gloves. And the tactics for every single one of those journeymen was try your best to last the first 2 or 3 rounds, and if you've not been knocked spark out by then, he's going to run out of ideas, he's going to run out of steam, and he's eventually going to chuck it. And that seems to be the story of our recent games, of how our recent games have unfolded anyway, especially Livingston and yesterday's game against St Johnstone. Anyway, let's get through the games. I know I keep saying this every week now. Let's get through the game segment as quickly as possible. We did have 2 games, one in the Champions League, thank God that's over, and one in the Scottish Premiership. And firstly, we got beat 3-1 by Ajax in our final game. That could have easily ended 2-2, but quite honestly, we probably wouldn't have deserved the draw based on the balance of play, but I would most certainly have gladly taken it. And now we are statistically the worst team in Champions League group stage history. What an absolute disaster of a campaign we had overall. Just awful literally from beginning to end. With only 2 real halves of decentness against Liverpool at Ibrox and Napoli also at Ibrox. And then from an entertainment perspective, some heroics from McGregor at Anfield to kind of keep the game interesting. And that's as much as I can remember of highlights from the 6 games. Very, very difficult group, to be very fair to us, but boy oh boy were we lost in that competition after all those years out, to just go in and get absolutely humbled and humiliated. Not cool. On this particular night, we lost another early and crap goal in 4 minutes, then a second in 29 minutes, and at that point the game is pretty much all but over. We did get a penalty back at the end and had a great chance to equalise as well, but poor, or unlucky, whatever you want to call it, finishing cost us, and they got the third to consign us to defeat number 6 out of 6. Positives from this one: the Champions League is finished for the season, and we don't need to worry about that anymore. Negatives, as I mentioned, we are the worst team in Champions League group stage history now, and that's sobering, and it's pretty much probably about right based on the way that we played. The capitulations against Ajax in the first half of the very first game, and the capitulation also in the second half of the Liverpool game at Ibrox, were just absolutely shocking, and just kind of testimony to how this team seems to perform when the pressure is on. The referee watch for this one, I don't recall the ref doing anything untoward that annoyed me on this particular one, so he gets a 7 out of 10. It's kind of difficult to criticise or even comment on the referee when you're getting beaten game after game. Our second game was Sunday's 2-1 defeat at St Johnstone, which came on the back, of course, of last week's emphatic win against Aberdeen. We're just up and down like a yo-yo these days, aren't we? And we started the game well enough, and over the entire game we enjoyed, let's just say enjoyed in inverted commas, 18 attempts on goal, with 7 of those being on target. We hit the woodwork 3 times, had 73% of the possession and 20 corner kicks, and despite all that, we just didn't look like winning the game at all, did we? Not really, not as far as I could see anyway. St Johnstone's first goal, just before half-time, was indeed, to be very fair to the fellow, I think his name is James Brown. I bet he felt good after that. You see what I did there? And it was a brilliant finish by their player, but Lundstrom just looked like, I don't know, like he peed himself when he gave up on a bit of a miscontrolled ball in the middle of the park, and then Tav did what Tav does and just puked it out from defence straight to their player. Then Davies then diarrheaed it from defence, trying to make some sort of pass that was never on to their player, and then Kent just snotters all over himself instead of getting closer to the guy when he's very obviously lining up the shot. 4 different disgusting things happen in one passage of play, and then it's 1-0 not long before half-time. Second half starts, we're looking for a quick start, doesn't really happen, does it? And then Gio makes substitutions run about the hour mark. I mean, we're asking for substitutions, but not substitutions that kind of weaken the team. Like, what is that? And then 2 minutes later, St Johnstone capitalised on our kind of weakened defence with a ball flashing into the area, and unfortunately, Borna Barisic, I love the guy, I really do, but he did what he does as well. When a ball comes into the box, he just kind of switches off, doesn't he? He just goes to sleep or whatever it is he doesn't track the man or the ball properly, or both, I guess you could say, and it's 2-0, and at that point it's pretty much game over. Not because we're all doom and gloom, but just based on what we've seen from the team, we just don't have it in us, do we, to come back from a 2-0 down. And Tav finally gets a goal back on 74 minutes, and in theory that should be long enough to haul us back in to the match, but I just didn't see it coming, to be honest, and we huffed and puffed for the last, almost 20 minutes or so. And that was that. The game was done, and a defeat in the bank, or in the books, I guess. Positives, none really, were there? I don't remember. And maybe Tav getting the goal to score for his 3rd game in a row, but when the goals that we ship come from his area of the pitch, that kind of more than counterbalance the ones that he scores, so it's almost moot from us right now. Why don't you start defending properly, Tav, and then you won't have to score as many, and then we'll actually be in the plus column rather than scoring to make up for the mistakes that you're making. I know that he's not intending to do that, of course, but that's just what's happening. It's just a fact that a lot of the goals are coming down our right hand side these days. Negatives, where will I start? Our defending, our attitude, our application, and I'm afraid to say it, but our manager he just seems to be lost now. I know we've probably been saying this for quite a wee while now, but I just don't see a particular style from him, like something like he's actually trying. It's all just a bit kind of samey these days. Put some players on, ask them to go high intensity, no real tactic, and just hope for the best. We had Alfredo Morelos and Antonio Cholak on the pitch at the same time again, and I don't recall us creating one decent chance for either of them when they were on the pitch at the same time together. I think Cholak had one chance in the first half where he might have tried to get the shot off and kind of didn't. But other than that, I don't know. We just look tired, frustrated, lost a little bit abject, and it just doesn't bode well for the manager when it gets to a spot like this. In fact, I don't even know that I can recall a manager in the history of me paying attention to the game of football who's come back from such a position. And and looking at it objectively, you could say it's not awful, that the league in theory is still within our grasp. We did make it to the Champions League like we wanted to. We are in the semi-final of the League Cup, and the Scottish Cup is going to start here pretty quick. But it's just, things just aren't right. There's an ageing team. There's a lot of key players that are going out of contract at the end of the season. You would imagine they leave unless they do a Connor Goldson and do an about turn. Quite honestly, based on the current form, I don't know if Alfredo Morelos and Ryan Kent specifically being out of contract is going to weaken us. I don't know. Do we ask them back? Is it a healthy contract that they want that would have them start to play again? Because Kent is now the target of the boo boys at the games, and I don't want to see that for him because I love Ryan Kent, and I think he tries on all the games. He's just making wrong decision after wrong decision these days, and when you get to that spot, ideally you've got enough bench strength to be able to give him a breather. But when you don't, then what happens is you have a guy who's just doing everything wrong all of the time. And anyway, back to the manager, the only person I can really honestly think of coming back from the brink, if this is exactly where we're at, obviously it's Monday night here, it's almost 7 p.m. my time Monday night. I was expecting something this morning, whether it was a vote of confidence from the board or whether it was, it was maybe his sacking, but nothing came from the club. And we've been here before where the club puts up the communication shutters and nothing comes out. But I just don't think it's even dawned on them that this would be a course of action that might want to be taken. So he stays, and we'll see what happens. The key factor was that we were looking to try and get a bunch of wins before the World Cup, stay in contention, get some players rested, get some players fit, get maybe some new players in January, and then really put a real shift in for next year. And then we lose 5 points in 3 games, and then it all becomes a wee bit different. The only person I can think about coming back from the brink, anyway, back to my point, would be Sir Alex Ferguson way back when in the what was that, the 80s with Manchester United. every other manager, and I might be wrong, someone might correct me on this, and I'll be happy to have a what guys got wrong next week, but mostly every other manager when it gets to this point ends up with their P45 in their hand and they're looking for another job, and I fear that it's going to happen eventually. It just has that feel about it, doesn't it? Just awful. Anyway, the referee watch. The referee was all right. The referee never did anything wrong. Was there any controversy around VAR as well? Not really that I can remember. The referee did okay. He'll get a 7 out of 10 as well. I didn't even do any real research on the referee for this one, to be dead honest. So what does this mean? We are 7 points behind after 13 games of the campaign, and we are also 16 goals behind the folks from the East End. They had 2 very close games against Hearts and against Dundee United this past, week or so, and they won both games. And that's not what we do. We don't do that. They do that. So we've dropped 5 points in 3 games, as I said, and the points we've dropped against Livingston at Ibrox, get lost. And St Johnstone and Perth, come on. Difficult to navigate, but we typically always are expecting to navigate those games. We're just a bit of a shambles right now and have been for a while, to be dead honest. And here's another fun fact. 1-1 at home to Livingston, and we don't get one single yellow card. 4-1 at home to Aberdeen after going a goal down, and we don't get a single yellow card in the entire game. 2-1 away to St Johnstone, once again, no yellow cards. That's kind of telling, is it not? Like not one person on the team is even trying to get a wee bit more physical with the opposition to let them know that we're still there, that we're still fighting, that we're still going to give it our all to the very death of the game. That just seems a wee bit off and a wee bit odd to me that we don't have any players, even just. I'm not talking about injuring other players, nothing of the kind, but I don't know. It just seems a wee bit strange for me. One last comment, I guess, maybe on the manager. This board, and I know this board is kind of is a bit different to the board that when Dave King and Paul Murray took over back in 2015. But in general, this board, if you take it as that kind of board, has been a bit of a continuance since then. They don't have a great track record in hiring managers. We've had the Pedro debacle. We had the things that ended very sourly with Warburton. Steven Gerrard had a very, very, very difficult start, and possibly COVID saved them. And then look what the incredible things that he managed to achieve for 55 after that, but was just awful in the Cups. They don't have a fantastic track record of hiring managers. And I think I mentioned in a previous pod that, it's an art to be able to hire well in any position. But, hiring a football manager is very much an art. And that's what Ross Wilson is supposed to be there. It must be part of his job to at least identify some candidates. But if we don't know what we're doing in this realm, then we go and get some expertise in the world of football that can help us. That there will be agents, there will be agencies that do this sort of recruitment, this headhunting thing that can give us a good look and feel for the marketplace and the people and the type and style of skill sets that we're looking for. I don't have a lot of confidence that even if Giovanni had to go, and soon, that we would make a better appointment. It's almost, it would be kind of fluky. There's a couple of names that I have in my head that I would be really, really excited to see at Ibrox. But other than that, there's not a massive pool of people out there that would get us going, that would get us winning, that would get us back on track. So maybe that's why the board aren't in a massive hurry, because they don't really know what they're doing. I don't know. I don't mean to criticise the board. I know everybody's doing their best, but I'm just talking about what I've seen. And, it's not been fantastic thus far. Anyway, this week, 2 games this week, starting on Wednesday's game at Ibrox against Hearts. That's a 2:45 Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's 7:45 UK, and that is followed by Sunday's final match before the World Cup, actually, away to St Mirren. And you'll remember St Mirren beat the mob from the east a couple of weeks back. So that's going to be a difficult one, and both of these teams must be licking their lips going to be playing us right now, with the tactics that have been employed by Livingston and St Johnstone. I imagine we'll see similar stuff to that. This Saturday's one is an early one again. It's a 7:30 AM Eastern Standard Time. That's 12:30 PM in the UK. I guess we just see how it goes and how many points we're behind after those games with the way that we're playing. Who really has a clue? I know I don't. For shout-outs this week, I did want to start off with some sad news. Just today on the NARSA Communications WhatsApp group chat, Andy Burnett from Toronto Midtown posted, and I'll just read it out here if you don't mind, some sad news from my club, Toronto Midtown RSC. One of our ever-present members, Jimmy Davidson, passed away on Saturday. Jimmy attended many NARSA conventions and was looking forward to our wee club hosting next summer. Jimmy was originally from Greenock but had been in Canada for many years. WATP RIP Jimmy. Oh, that's just awful news. I'm really sorry to hear that. I'd like to take this opportunity to pass on our sincere condolences from everyone in the NARSA family to Jimmy's family and friends, and all, of course, at Toronto Midtown as well. And just to bring things a wee bit more upbeat, I'd like to finish off the shout-outs for this week with a bit of a beauty that has been a long time in the making for some blue noses over in the fine state of New Jersey in the United States. I'm delighted to let you know that we have a brand new club in New Jersey called the Kearney Scots American Rangers Supporters Club, and they're located at 40 Patterson Street in Kearney, New Jersey. And I know this one has been a real labour of love for the group over there for a number of years, and due to the constitutional restrictions that we have in place in our constitution and the presence of the original Kearney Rangers. So is it Kearney or Carney? Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm going to say Carney from now on, right? Kearney? No, Kearney. I'm going to say Kearney. With the Kearney, original Kearney club, and we didn't have the opportunity to have both clubs operate under the NARSA banner. It just couldn't materialise at that point. I'm afraid we don't need to go into why, but you may remember a while back that the original Kearney Rangers Supporters Club had formally informed us of their intention to fold the club and end their NARSA membership, just due to the fact it was just too difficult to keep it going. They did have a great go at it, but COVID just took its toll, unfortunately. So this, though, opened the door for the Blue Noses at the Scots American Rangers Supporters Club to get this one going. So it's been a wee bit of a time in the making. We actually got the form and the membership check quite some time ago, and it was just my bad not to mention this before now. So hopefully this is good to have everyone formally commended for their hard work and formally welcomed into the NARSA family. And I'd like to thank everyone over there for their patience and perseverance. And a very formal welcome aboard to President Heather Farrell, Vice President Robert Duncan, Secretary Andrew Rikers, Treasurer Eddie Duffy, and Directors Courtney Irwin and Bobby Anderson. Congratulations, folks. Thank you very, very much for being part of our tribe here, and we look forward to more active ongoing participation from the Scots American Rangers Supporters Club as we go forward. We already have the wheels in motion for their presence on the NARSA map on the website as well. That will get that going. Hopefully Chris will get that going if it's not already done. I didn't actually check it before I started recording tonight. On the convention update, I can officially confirm it's 220 days and 31 weeks until Toronto Midtown host the biggest bash overseas of the Rangers calendar for next year, and really looking forward to that. We're almost in the 20s in terms of weeks. I told you this. And in terms of significant updates, we actually don't have too many. We were supposed to get the hotel rooms out for sale to the general public last week and didn't quite get to doing that, and I had mentioned about the event tickets that we might be in a position to get that done. Work in life and crap Rangers performances have just got in the way on that. So we did get the hotel organised in terms of the bookings. I think I mentioned that last week, and so you'll get to see everything. You'll get to be able to book the rooms that you want. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and then a phone call came in. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, so if that went a bit quiet, sorry about that. But the hotel room bookings, we will get that out this week. We'll maybe coincide it with us pumping Hearts on Wednesday, get that one out there, and then we'll turn our focus and attentions to the event tickets as well. So we're going there. The Holiday and Flight Centre are still going with the full package for folks that have expressed an interest too. So if you want to go to attheconvention.com, you'll get to see what they have to offer, especially if you're coming from the UK. I do have an announcement though to make on the Master of Ceremonies front for Toronto 2023, and I am more than delighted to let you know that Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast's very own David Edgar, will be emceeing our event again next year after doing such a brilliant bang-up job in Las Vegas 2022. When I reached out to David, he immediately accepted with thanks and is already really looking forward to turning everything up a notch for next year. It's going to be hard to beat Vegas, but if anyone can, it's David Edgar, and the reason I know this is that he told me to say exactly every single word of what I just said there. But really delighted to have David on board. He has been a godsend for NARSA and gives us a lot of exposure on his shows. So very looking forward, very much looking forward, I should say, to seeing David and maybe one or two others from the Heart and Hand network over with us as well. So we have an announcement, which is great, and I'll hopefully get a chance to do a wee bit more of a wider announcement on that on David's show tomorrow morning, maybe. And yeah, and that's on the finally on the convention front for this week. I wasn't sure whether to mention this here or in the kind of NARSA business, but I'll mention it here because it's directly related to the convention. The NARSA executive are going to be heading down to the hotel. I say down because it feels like it's down for here from Calgary to Toronto. Maybe it's not, but we're going over there on the first week of February to meet with the hotel staff, to do a hotel walkthrough and meet with and enjoy a game with the organising committee at Toronto Midtown Rangers Supporters Club as well. So this is to help us just make sure we have all of our logistics well in hand for the event, get a chance to put faces to names and give people the support and information that they need for it to be a massive success. So the weekend that they were actually heading there is going to be February the 3rd to the 5th, that's the Friday to the Sunday. And we'll also be hosting our winter general meeting during that weekend too. So you'll see, for the NARSA membership, you'll see more information coming out about that from Sandra Hawthorne, our secretary. But if you're in the area and you fancy coming down to say hello, we're going to be staying at the hotel when we're there as well. We would be absolutely delighted. We'd absolutely love to see you and catch up and maybe sink a beer or two during the weekend as well. So a wee bit more about that closer to the time, but we do have that confirmed. We have the hotel rooms organised and I already had my flights booked as well. So really looking forward to that. And as I say, that coincides with our constitutionally required winter meeting. On to the communication section for this past week. There really isn't too much at all going on out with what I've already discussed. And other than to say, to start off with, congratulations, huge congratulations to Mr. Tony Goals himself for winning concurrent September and October SPFL Player of the Month awards. That's a wee bit. That's a wee bit of a big thing, isn't it? Really, it was all a bit subdued, and I didn't really see too much about it. But you know, winning one of those is great. Winning two on the bounce is incredible. And you know, the goals have kind of dried up a wee bit for him of late. But we already know what a talent he is, and hopefully he's back on the goals trail on Wednesday and Saturday to take us into the World Cup on a wee bit of a high, hopefully. But congratulations, Mr. Goals, and thank you for all of your service during your time with us to date. And one last wee thing that I did notice that might be of interest for international fans, as you probably know, I'm not a huge international geek or gonk or fan or whatever you want to call it, but the Scottish FA have announced this week that in September 2023, Scotland will face England at Hampden Park in a fixture that will commemorate the first ever international match in 1872. The match will take place on Tuesday the 12th of September at 7:45 p.m. and will be part of a year-long calendar of events from the Scottish FA to celebrate the history of the association. The game will also be part of a 5-match package available for fans for the Scotland's men's 2023 home fixtures. So if that's your jam, then that is something to look forward to. It's always a wee bit spicier, isn't it, when it's Scotland versus England? That's pretty fun. So yeah, good for them for doing that and honouring the century, or I guess, the 150th anniversary of the association. So that's fantastic. Good for them. Okay, that'll do it for this week, my friends. A wee bit subdued this week because things are kind of garbage right now, and hopefully we'll have something better to talk about next week. As always, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to listen, and please do share it with whomever you think might enjoy it. And until next week, here's to whatever bizarro nonsense our team are going to serve up for us this week. Until next week, please do take care of yourself, folks. All the very best. Cheerio.